All right. Another day. Uh June 22nd. No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Tupac birthday. June 1, 6, 1, 7, 1. Okay. All right. August 22nd. Uh I'd like to say I'm trying to test out this new intro. Come one, come all. Wait, no, what is it? Oh yeah. Come one, come all. It's time to grow. Welcome to the Dorian Adams Motivation Show. Right? We're
Well,
gonna see if that fit. Hey. So I'm blessed to be graced by the presence of Tasha today and John, who I invited to the call. They stepped to the plate uh, to pour into the topic of who am I? What I want to do, what I always do as customary on the channel, is to uh, open this, open the session with a brief moment of silence. I like to do 10 seconds, just dedicated to connecting to your source of strength, the creator, your God, whoever it is that you believe in and rely on in that higher sense, that higher being. So we'll do that right now, give it 10 seconds, and then we'll resume the call. All right, great.
okay.
You know what? I literally be going off into a power nap sometime on that meditative state that um, when I know that that's the purpose of that moment of silence, man, I just really it just washes away everything, and I'm just right there. But anyway, um, who am
Uh,
I is the topic, um, and I'm gonna just go ahead and straight up tag John and tag him in because we before we started recording, you was leaning into something about staying in a conscious state of learning. So let me see, where was you at with that?
well, that was pretty much the end of where that of what that was. But I will say that the question of who am I and identity is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's uh it's interesting because I read a lot of psychology books on identity and who it is that we believe ourselves to be. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess now I'll try and describe how it is we come to the conclusions of who it is we believe we are. So, from my understanding, at least right now, from childhood to the teenage years until our early adulthood and so on and so forth, who we are, who we believe ourselves to be, is a combination of our social environment, so how other people have treated us, and how we perceived other people. Um, and like the real younger years of being a child, it's your relationship with your parents, your mother, your father, and all of the elders that were in your life. Some people obviously have more than others because everyone's is different, but so that definitely plays a role in who you believe yourself to be, and also, I guess the more unique aspect that isn't so much social, that's like encoded inside you. You could say your soul or your spirit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's part of it. So when we talk about identity in regards to, people having good optimistic relationships with themselves, or positive outlooks, and then people that are more down and despondent, you could say that the way that they perceive their past and how people have treated them is negative. Whether or not it was negative or not, they have a negative outlook on their past. I like to look at it like we have a narrative of our life story up until now. There's like the story of our life, so to speak, and well, we try and we have all of these fragmented memories of our past, and we try and consolidate them. Some people have a more well-rounded, put together story, and some people have more fragmented and yeah, I would just say fragmented perspectives of their past. So the more strong of a narrative that you have of your past, the more strong of an idea you have of who you are. And that's just my perspective of it. Like I said, this is something I've been trying to think on and figure out myself. But you know,
Let me throw this out there at you. Let me just see how. So basically, what I'm gathering just from what you said was on spot on. The who am I's that are available. If I have a choice, uh, I can say I am my past childhood. I am who other people think I am. Right. I am what I know. Right. I am who I seek to be. Is more than that. So give me some more specifics that you can nail.
well, we are who we want to be in the future. I think you've got it. We're multiple different things at the same time. I like that. Yeah,
Right.
our
And
future,
so
past, present.
your spiritual identification, right? Uh, because in a lot of ways, it's all about what you choose to personify. You know what I mean? Because I mean that's outwardly. What you personify outwardly is what somebody's gonna read. What you personify inwardly is who you are. And you know who that is from childhood, what I was fed, taught, my experiences, good, bad, and ugly. You know what I mean? I was always told I was ugly. You know what I mean? And so there comes a point of identification
Mm-hmm.
where you say, this is who I am, right? But what else is it? Any more titles or that you could say fit that?
I mean, I would say that those are pretty much the foundational who am I's. That's interesting that you said that the way you did. We are our past, we're our present, and we're our future. I think and you just noted that there's the real you that exists within you that you know, and then there's the version of yourself that you present to other people. I think um, I think that's probably one of the most difficult things is trying to integrate them both together. It's like the idea of integrating your shadow, becoming your past, present, or future, or your dark side, the real you, and the perceived you that you want to be together. So yeah, I'm not too sure if there are other ones. Those sound like the foundational who am I's.
Hey, but it's funny you said that too. Hey, like some people, they be so busy trying to be somebody that they really ain't. So like they try to not acknowledge who they was or who they really is, the culmination of what got them to today, and they become fake. You straight fake, dog. You can't shake what built you to being who you is and knowing what you know. You if you
Right.
putting on a whole new role, bro, you might as well be in a damn movie. So
I
it's
mean, it's
funny that you said
wonder why.
that.
Yeah, yeah, but it's I mean, it's no wonder why people put on the mask is because it's vulnerability. I mean, what happens when
Mm,
you put your true self to people? It's like, well, now you can be hurt. You're open to be attacked, which is a very pessimistic view, but that's pretty much what everyone does. That's why I said I think that's one of the most difficult things in the world to do is to integrate who you really are with who you present yourself as, because it's putting yourself on the line, and you'd have to be very secure in
mm.
yourself as opposed to insecure to be comfortable doing something like that. That's why when we see people that seem really authentic and genuine, they kind of stand out, and it kind of itches our insecurity because we're like, damn, who the hell they think they are. It's like, well, they have something. They could be fake, but we can kind of tell when
Right.
someone really has that. It stands
But you,
out.
you you said a key thing in that sentence. You said when they stand out as genuine.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Because if you see some fakeness in there, that would have been inserted in the conversation of your own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they might have said something that seemed like real, but you're gonna sit there long enough. Your heart of hearts, the identification piece in you is gonna know. You're gonna shake that knockoff. They got to go. You ain't gonna stick around long as long as that knockoff is there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because you like you said, your vulnerabilities are coveted too. You keeping a mask, not necessarily a mask, but you guarding those. So when somebody that shows you a genuine piece, it's typically going to be because of an identification. And you're not going to just shed that vulnerability to something fake and just get vulnerable. And then this person's just, you know what I mean? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to more likely get vulnerable with something that you identify with because you know it's the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I think it's also an interesting question to say, how do people develop, their math, so to speak? Because it seems like, everyone, we all have one to some degree, some less than others, and perhaps some people don't have one at all, but how do people get them in the first place? I think, the idea of exposing yourself, being vulnerable, and or not doing that because you don't want to be hurt. I think at some point during a person's life, they were vulnerable, as we all are when we're children and innocent. Having your vulnerability taken advantage of, or a parent or someone being negative towards you, it molds you to being a certain way. Um, let's say for people that we say are mean, just generally speaking, like, oh, that person's mean. It's like, well, maybe they attempted to be nice and someone, you know, weren't very nice back to them a lot. Well, then that could mold that person into being that way and having a mask of being like that until they had some sort of intimate relationship that exposed who they truly were. That's just a little abstract example, but
But you know what you just said, what I heard? What I heard is that hurt people hurt people.
yeah, to put it simply, yeah, that's
You know what
exactly.
I'm saying? So without peeling that whole onion, you just nailed it. You know what I mean? And really uncovered just a bare bones a version of who that person is. Where did that hurt and that negativity come from? Where did that aggression come from? And then you just personifying that negativity and aggression. It ain't baked into not many of it, y'all. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So that comes from some experience or whatever it is, and that's basically your defense mechanism showing its head. You
right,
know,
right.
you leading with your defense mechanism because it's something you're trying to cover up.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But hey, let's do this because hey, man, woo, that five, boy, it's hard to put out that five. But no, toxic. Out of the who am I's that we talked about,
Hmm.
which one of those who am I's do you feel shaped where you at now the most?
I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot of that. It's a little bit of everything, honestly. Everyone that I've come across, every experience, good or bad, that I've had in life, it's just a little bit of everything. And then at some point letting it affect me in a good or a bad way. Like, did it make me? Did it break me? Am I growing from it, or am I gonna sit here and wallow in self-pity and, just let it take over, let me get into a depressed mode. And I think for the most part, whatever I've been through, I've been able to always look at the positive side of things. You know, I'll talk about it, vent about it. Talking obviously helps all of us, I think, just opening up and talking about it. But um, for the most part, no, keep growing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say I don't think that we as people exist, our identities exist isolated, alone. I think that we exist in direct proportion to the people around us. So I would say, who am I in relationship to the people around me? I think that's probably the most salient question that's got me to where I am now. And I say that because one of the driving forces that was able to get me from where I was to where I am now is analyzing myself in comparison to my family. I have a large family and the people around me. So socially speaking, as far as let's say growing, transforming, and just moving upwards on the ladder of life in general, that was the question that got me, is comparing myself to my peers, to put it simply. I think that
Mhm.
I think that yeah, like I said, we exist not in isolation, but in direct proportion to our social environment. And for people that don't have a very enriched social environment, well, we have social media now, so that certainly can try and replace that, but it isn't very sufficient. So,
It's not very interactive.
nah, it's
Um,
not intimate enough.
no. I think for I think it depends on the environment too, because like, if you're getting into a negative workspace, you're not able to thrive as much as you would where you're being celebrated. Like if you're not comfortable where you're at, around the people that you're with on a regular basis, it's really hard to grow in that space. It's like, I don't know, we talked the other day about, pouring into your own cup. It's like same thing, everybody around you, are they pouring into your cup or are they just being negative and, you know, weighing you down? They're holding you back from growing, basically. And no,
I agree.
Right.
That's a big problem because, well, I like to look at it as, because I'm huge on self accountability. So I think for one, the culture right now, Black culture and American culture as a whole, is very unhealthy, and it's not very welcoming for, like tribal communications or being really close. I don't know what type of work environment you were talking about, but I do know that when people don't have their cups full, or at least half full, they can't really pour into yours.
Mhm.
And so what I tell myself is, okay, nobody talks to each other anymore, and nobody does this anymore. Well, I'm just gonna do it. Well, I'm just gonna, as an experiment, fuck it. What would
Test the
happen if
waters.
I take the first step? And rejection is definitely a deterrent in wanting to do that. But it's an experiment. It's not personal. It's whatever. But
Yeah.
people have to have something to give. Otherwise, they can just take.
Right. And you know what, man, that was good stuff. Because when you said that, it just like it just popped something moment in my head. Like, so basically, when you said that as an experiment, it's if nothing else, you know what I mean? It's basically saying, what is it gonna hurt? Right? And
Mm,
that's the first part of it. But the back end of that, right? The back end of that is the what if, because that's a question.
oh
You
yeah.
get what I'm saying? You have taken it, taking the next step in furthering that question. I'm trying to gather information right now. Basically, what I find out is going to help me understand more about people, how I receive it, how I use it is going to tell me more about who I am, right? And the thing is, too, just like your perception of how the situation goes, your perception of what somebody says and how they respond to it. You have the permission or the choice to tell yourself how you gonna roll based on that information.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at that, I got a question for both of y'all now. When I ask you, who are you based on you have a past, you have a present, you have certain stuff that's going on in your life right now that you refuse, right? Because of who you are, who you say you are. You have stuff that has went on in your life forever and a day, and you never challenge it, never question it. It just is what it is, so to speak. What I'm trying to get to the point of is, who are you, and have you taken the opportunity to identify and analyze who you are based on the stuff that was fed to you or the stuff that you went through in your life? You know what I mean? Because you didn't just necessarily accept every single thing that went on in your life. You know, okay, put it like this. Let me hold on. Yeah, I had a call coming in. But I was bullied as a kid. How about that? So just trying to help frame my question. I understood that I didn't have to accept that. But until I understood that, I asked some questions. I had to ask the question of, what if I get my ass whooped if I run up on this dude? I didn't want pain. So I had a whole process behind that. But once I understood that, for me to liberate myself from that prison, right? Because I was the only one holding myself into that, being shook of this person. Once I understood that, I waited and I said, well, I'd rather have a fighting chance than don't even fight back. So it's the same thing as saying all of this stuff that you had going on in your past and everything like that. There's certain things that went on that you decided to blow past it, grow past it, and some things of who you are now you kept.
Right.
So that's why I say, who are you based on who you mean to be?
Based on what?
Who you mean to be. Like, I am a culmination of all of that stuff, but I'm going to only personify those things which I feel are going to enrich myself, enrich others, and grow. You know what I mean? If I'm making sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
Well,
I have been a culmination of a whole lot of stuff that you will never see that now. So go ahead.
no, yeah, that is the central question, isn't it? Who am I? I mean, like I said, it just makes me want to circle back on what I was already saying. I mean, I think for starters, asking yourself this type of question and really wanting to know the answer is a beautiful thing. I don't know how often people, sit down by themselves and try and self-reflect. I just know what I do, and other people that I meet that seem like they're, doing similar things as me. But
Feel challenged right now. This is a hard one.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we remember that we, when trying to define yourself, because of us biologically, we're social animals, quote unquote. That's kind of why I was saying we don't really exist alone. So trying to define my identity on my own, I can do up until a certain point. But, the notion that, what other people think doesn't matter is true in certain regards, but at the same time, it actually is important because if everyone is saying, you know, you're crazy or you're a bad guy. It's like, well, it might not be true, but in the eyes of the world, you are. Let's say even in a smaller context of like a tribe or a group. I like to take things back to like a primordial way of thinking. It does matter. Or, you know, like let's say that I was someone who wanted to try and manipulate people and I was a narcissist and I tried to get over on people all the time. It it wouldn't work in a smaller, more enclosed environment with people because the word would get around. But in like a larger environment, let's say like the world and the way that it's set up now, it could work, but you could bounce from place to place, like city or state or country to country. So it's like who you are is the way that you behave and of course the words that you say, but it's also how you've affected other people. So when asking the question, who am I? It's like, well, how do people feel about you and how do you behave? It's it's difficult to use words to sort of explain because when I think of identity, I get more of a picture in my head than I do words. So yeah,
Yeah,
you definitely
but
get the though to some degree. You're not your behaviors, exactly, or your excuse me, you're not your experiences exactly. You're much more than that.
right. So
I
if I
try
if I
that.
look at that, uh, it makes me think about when you talk about the narrative that exists attached to, let's say, for instance, when I try to break it down, I look at, say, for instance, the narrative because it's something that I come up against every day walking out my house. I'm walking into a narrative that's been in place because the reason why I say that so strongly is because everything you see outside of yourself is man-made. Not everything, but I'm saying like, cars, dwellings, buildings you walking into, all this stuff is man-made stuff. When you hear something come out of somebody's mouth, a lot of times that's just the narrative. And so for you to understand and communicate with that other person, you have to understand the narrative, right? Right? Because
Mm.
so watch what happens within that context. Within the context of me understanding the narrative, for me to continue the conversation, a lot of times I have to agree with that person. We all typically in a conversation, we try to find some type of common ground uh, that allows the conversation to keep going or allows it to progress in the direction that we both trying to go or whatever it is. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if in your scenario, everybody's chiming into the narrative, right? Because this is how things roll. And if I'm coming over here doing something that's ass backwards, it ain't got nothing to do, you know what I mean, with how things really roll, then I'm standing out, a sore thumb. But you said it in a negative way. Here's the deal. If I have found something that will impact the narrative, that it basically, I'm talking against the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm talking against the narrative, but I'm kicking some straight facts, it's going to be because the narrative is so commonly and widely accepted that people refuse to even hear what I'm saying because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to disrupt the apple cart and even give what I'm saying the time of day. Does that make sense? Because the narrative is law basically. Just because that's what you always heard, just because that's what you always did. Somebody try to do something, do something different, and you automatically like, oh, what are you tripping on? He crazy. So now, like you said, now he's crazy, right?
Mm.
It ain't
The,
necessarily a negative thing. It's just saying when I identify who am I, and I say this is how I'm gonna roll. This is something I've found to be true uh, for me.
yeah. It's definitely important to tap into, the deepest parts of yourself and to embody who it is that you truly are, in contrast to what other people think the norm is and whatnot. I'm certainly not someone that, believes you have to fit in with the group, get along, go along, to get along, however it goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That. If I did give that off, that wasn't the impression I was trying to get off. I was more so saying that part of us that's almost we don't have a choice because that's like a survival mechanism.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think, today it'll probably benefit an individual far more to become who they truly are uniquely than to go along with the narrative that you speak of right now, because it doesn't seem like it's a very good story that's being told. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with
Yeah.
you. I,
No, that was definitely not a dig in any way at what you were
no, no,
saying. It was just building on it from a different lens. You know what I mean? Because man, bro, that's what happened all day, every day. And the reason I'm so passionate about that, just even in sharing how it moved me and how it shaped my thoughts, is because it's so prevalent, man. And when it hit me, I just shake my head every time something come up. Because like I said, I wrote a book. I don't know if you read my book. It's called He's Able.
oh man, how did I know
Yeah.
this?
No, see, that's what I'm saying, man. That
Man
passion,
of
bro, be
many
there. Like
surprises.
the conversations, it moves some stuff. But in that book, I talked about how uh, there's always a narrative at play. And in saying that, I identified so many areas of my life that I was fed narratives that was totally some bullshit. And I rock with it and rock with it and rock with it until a grown man's age. And then I finally looked around and decided to question some of the stuff that I was always told.
Mhm.
For me, if you just say some, for instances, we was laughing about this too a little while ago. We talk about stuff like superstitions. Death
Mm-hmm.
coming threes. If your hand itching, you're gonna get some money. If your ear burning, you somebody talking about you. If
Someone's
you dream
touching you.
about fish, somebody finna have a baby. Like, if a black cat cross your path, you're gonna have bad luck. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then so many of those things we grab a hold of, and literally it's embedded in our psyche. And those are just real small. That's simple. But the thing of it is so many more narratives that we carry. When something happens or somebody asks you a question, you answer based on the narrative, and you never even question the situation beyond that.
You're touching on something really key right now, because this is also something that I spent quite some time thinking about. You said it exactly, especially with the superstitions. I mean, if you think about before the way people are today, you go back, let's say, 1,000 years. We certainly were embodying things from a more emotional and I would say from a more emotional perspective. So that's how you come to the conclusions with the black cat and when this happens it equals that and these things that were never dug into, investigated, and weren't able to be articulated. So when you say you could spend your whole life, you could say that you've been indoctrinated or people passed down different behavioral patterns to you that you never questioned until now. I think a
Right.
huge part of us across a long period of time that's how we operate, that's how our brains work. We learn and those memories are stored in, or because I know a little bit about neuroscience, it's stored in our amygdala, which is basically a fear memory system. It holds all the memories that are there to protect you, so that kicks in and we don't
Wait,
even
say that.
stop it.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time. You said it's stored in something, but it kind of phased in and out.
Oh, the amygdala. It's the fear memory system,
Amygdala. Okay.
amygdala. So yeah, our proclivity to act based on what we already know without really understanding or questioning it is extremely strong. And I think that it's extremely important to question things that you do or to question your habitual behaviors because, well, shit, a lot of the times we don't know what we're doing. I mean, I think, what is
Right.
it, like 80% of our psychological processes are unconscious. That means that proportion of what's going on with our minds and bodies happen outside of our conscious awareness, which is kind
Mm-hmm.
of crazy to think about. But yeah.
So here's the deal. To kind of piggyback on what you're saying. So when somebody asks me who I am, it's not until I visit all of those norms and all of those indoctrinations and all of those ideologies that I've been fed. And you know what I mean? I tend to say that a lot of times I'm going to answer a question that's based on the narrative. I'm going to take it in and answer it, try to answer it better than the guy standing next to me would have answered it because we all talking the same language at some point. You know what I mean? So all I'm doing is taking that same information that I've been fed over and over and over again, and I'm trying to say it faster, slicker, smoother, more cool than the next person. It ain't not saying nothing different. I ain't challenged none of it. You see what I'm saying? And so that's just saying until I consciously break down and ask questions about every single thing that I've been fed. Why do I think this way? Oh, ask the question. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Until I do that, I don't really know who I can't say I don't know. We'll put it like this. When somebody asks me who I am, if I haven't did that yet, I'm giving them a fake ass answer. I'm basically finna become a salesman. As soon as you say that, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Well,
finna
that's
be
pretty
on my soapbox.
much what I asked that we don't know the answer to. We just throw something
Right, right. So you just giving a knee-jerk answer. It ain't saying you're a bad guy. But that's the type of stuff that hits me, and I'm sitting there like, if somebody asks you who you is, you know how OGs ask you when you was younger, like, what you gonna do when you get older, or this and this and this, or what you gonna be doing in 5 years or 10 years. They ask you that, and you feel like you gotta answer them because they wisdom would say, I need to answer this right. I need to act like I got a good answer. But they asking you something you never even thought about really. So like you just finna freestyle and say what you heard the next dude say in school. I'm gonna be a fireman. You see what I'm saying? You trying to get the question answered to make it seem like you know and you got your stuff together. But we grown now. When somebody asks me who I am, I need to ask myself that first. So I ain't giving you no punk ass answer because you might be finna get help by what I say. I never know where your question really coming from, but sometimes something like that could be asked and you could literally shift somebody's paradigm, you know what I mean, based on how you answer. You know what I mean? Because we grow from each other. And what you said earlier, too, once again, is the identification of you saying something that so moving. It comes from such a special place that it opens the door of opportunity for that person to actually open their door and ask that question and say, damn, you know what I mean? That's that genuineness. Now they saying, man, that was so powerful, bro. And then now they got another question for you. You know what I mean? So I want to be that person, man. I want to be that person that visits that dark place and finds out why it's even dark. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be that. I want to be that person that understands and breaks down the damn the what is it myth. I want to be the person that breaks down the myth of who the boogeyman is,
Mm.
right?
To
And I'm
take
gonna
down
take it even.
all the curtains, all the yeah, all
Right.
the mystery around.
Barriers.
This was fed to me, dog. Let me just take it a step further.
Well, hold on,
You
before
talk,
you go, I'll say this. It's
mhm.
no wonder that people can't answer the question of who am I, because for what it's worth, figuring out who you are is kind of like a lifelong process. I mean, I would imagine I'm only 22, but let's say from now to 32 to 42 to 52 to 62, I have learned 10 years more about myself than I would have, and on top of the fact that we also change. So I don't think that there will ever be a perfect concrete answer for that for anyone,
Right.
because you're going to be at different points. But it's certainly a
Hmm.
question that can be asked every
Right,
day,
right.
But all right, I just wanted to.
Yeah. No, but that's
I
the
like
thing
that.
though. If you begin to tap into that, you just got a head start and you can keep an accurate count of who you is versus never asking yourself that question till you get old as my ass is and finally asking the question. I'm having a good time figuring this stuff out, but I know I would have probably had a better heads up about all this stuff if I asked the question at the age of 22. You see what I'm saying? So it's
Mhm.
never too late though. That's all I'm saying. It's never too late.
Oh
But
no!
us as leaders, we have a voice and we have an inherent responsibility to ask these questions and to have these forums and stuff like that so that it could jar somebody else's thought process and maybe get them woke up to the thoughts of, hey, let me ask this question. Let me look at this like this, right? But here, what I was gonna say real quick was to piggyback and take that one step further was if somebody asks you to draw a picture of the devil,
Hmm.
what is that picture gonna look like? Anybody?
The standard, yeah, this is standard picture of the devil that, I
You say a
mean,
standard picture, right?
you have,
Most
yeah, you,
have that
that's,
little caricature of the devil. Yeah,
yeah.
we were
Right,
to
right,
try.
right. So what
Get
what
a,
was you saying, Tasha? What were you saying?
It's like, this red character with horns and, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right,
Or like, it's like the alien thing that you had in another call too. Um,
right,
no, you
right.
don't know what an alien looks like, but you're gonna freak out or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you already got your
Yeah.
emotional response or whatever it is to when somebody
Right.
asks you if aliens came to Earth. You gonna already go, I'm gonna get my family and kids. I'm gonna kiss them up goodbye. Man, come on. But the
Right.
same thing going with the devil. This is what I'm speaking to is the
Mhm.
narrative. It's a narrative that you just say, hey, it's gonna be a red joker with a spiky tail, and he's gonna have horns coming out of his head. He's gonna look real gruesome and beastly.
Yeah.
That's the narrative, dog. If we don't ask ourselves questions about that and say, hold on, right? I'm bought into that thought process and that way of looking at the so-called devil. I ain't never seen no damn devil. How
all
I'm
right,
picking up on that like that. And so it's stuff like that that is subtle, but it's so commonly accepted. It's the narrative.
Mhm.
And then you got to think what else go along with the narrative of the devil and this and this and this. So that's just me, like I say, asking questions about every single thing because it ain't that it ain't a damn devil. Who knows, right? That ain't my conversation piece. My conversation piece is breaking down the facts of what's being said versus what I'm just hearing over and over and over and over. And is what I'm hearing over and over and over a fact? Okay, how is it a fact? Why is it a fact? Let me get conclusive about the fact that it's a fact. And then I can let it rest. But until then, this is just something I heard, dog. I need to find out for myself,
I agree.
you know?
On to that, I think it's also important when being hypercritical of the narrative, and every time you're presented with another opportunity to question one of those habitual behaviors. I think it'll be useful
Mm-hmm.
to ask also, what is the utility of this? Because whether or not it's true objectively or false or whatever, I think figuring out what's most useful about what you tell yourself is probably more important than what's true. Because if part of the
Mm-hmm.
narrative that you're figuring out or writing across while you're analyzing it is useful, but it's not something that's original to you, it's like, well, I don't see any reason to throw it out. I think that a lot of this grand narrative, it was created by people as a whole, so it certainly has to have some sort of utility, and maybe not all of it to all of us, but certain parts of it. Like when you talk about the devil, that's a whole another story I can get into, the idea of evil or God and that whole thing. But it's sort of like culture. Those were stories that were passed down. They were created for one
Mm-hmm.
or another, whether or not a snake really talked to a whatever, or if it means
Mm-hmm.
something evil communicating with innocence or something like that, or whatever it may be. I think, what's its utility when I think of a narrative? I don't
Right.
always go to whether or not it's unique to me or not. I think that's important to ask too.
But then too, a funny thing about what you just said too, as a part of its utility, that was just a nugget. But the thing is, the narrative, if I at least take the time to break it down and understand it, where it came from, right? It will allow me then to actually be able to, it garners me a certain power in dealing with people who embrace this narrative. You got people that's running around constantly with the narrative like everybody else. You know what I mean? And they ain't never questioned it. So I literally afford myself a leg up in a lot of instances because I have allowed made myself aware instead of just going along with the sheep. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I might not use it. I might, of course, I have to understand what's at play in the midst of a conversation.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? If I'm listening to the narrative happening, I'm just basically, I just keep talking to let you say what you're gonna say. I'm gonna let you're gonna spew off narrative after narrative, and I'm just sitting there listening to how dug into these narratives you are. So now I just basically know how to play my cards, so to speak, because it's ultimately a good thing if you know how to navigate through this life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Not letting this joker right here sell you a dream on some BS with the narrative just because he's good at saying the narrative,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So yeah, no, it's something to press the button of identification on who am I, in the many different facets that you could look at to ask yourself, who am I? We got something about, like I said, about agreement where we can't even sit. We can't. If I don't agree with somebody, even since I was a kid, it might have been that they just liked what they didn't make what the disagreement was right or wrong on either side. It's just that you like what you like and I like what I like.
Right.
And now you're just trying to win the argument to make it seem like you know better than I know. But I look around here at these people, I see Tesla, I see Range Rover, I see Toyota, right? And if you ask somebody, well, why is his car better than your car? He gonna tell you why it's better. They both cars, right? And then you ask the other guy, why is his better? Well, mine green, his blue. Why is that better? Because green is better than blue. Okay, so that's, you know what I mean? It's like looking at all of that for what it's worth. It happens all the time. It
Mm-hmm.
happens all the time. Who am I though? Right? How does that even factor into, does that make sense to me? Does it matter? Right?
I agree. I also think that would make the world a far more complicated and beautiful place by extension if everyone were to be acting as truly unique to themselves as they possibly could be. Well, that's probably everyone's most difficult thing. Like I said, I think that would definitely illuminate uh, the beauty that exists within the world if everyone was to figure out who they truly were, because that means that people would be acting differently but the same in a certain manner. Right now, everyone's just acting the same. Some people, I wouldn't even say most people, but speaking generally. So it would illuminate the beauty that's dormant, that's existing within the world. But
Right. But don't that say a
yeah,
lot to the sheep mentality that we witness on a day-to-day basis right now? Knowing the level of enlightenment that we can actually access. This is just a conversation, bro. This is a 30, 40-minute Zoom call right now. And I'm flying high. But you go out on a day-to-day basis and you see sheep after sheep after sheep without calling nobody out, without saying I'm better than you. It ain't got nothing to do with that. But we as a species, bro, we are way, way bigger than this.
oh yeah,
But I think it takes the individual and the compunction and the desire to want to escalate, to elevate and reach, where you can go.
Right.
You
Not
know?
everyone's there though.
No, they ain't. They ain't. But that's the thing. We can't even speak to everybody. We can just look at the fact that we were exposed the opportunity to even go there and then figure out what we're going to do about it individually. Because the whole conversation is, guess what? Who am I?
Right.
You know what I mean? Who am I? And do I mean who I am? Because it's a lot more in store, man. We can reach heights and stuff. That's why I say John blew me away, man. When we talk, I'm just sitting there like, what? You know what I'm saying? And so it just goes to show
like
that had I not reached John, had I not reached out for you, we would have never been to where we at now. But I got
you
questions,
did,
right?
bro, you did. You said something or something when I was in the gym. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Man. And we got to do that, man. We got to be that. We got to be ready to engage. I mean, you reading a book about neuroscience, bro, it's not going to happen unless somebody else was tuned into that. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't reach for it, if it wasn't available, that connection never happens.
It's a
So
bit.
same thing going. Go ahead, bro. Sorry.
No, I was saying that's definitely a bit frightening to think of, but it's true. Yeah.
Right, right. You know, and that's where I'm at too. Like with my offerings, writings, musings, videos, whatever. I'm looking to reach. I'm looking to offer. I'm looking to explore.
Right.
I'm looking for criticism, uh,
Constructive.
critical feed. What am I trying to say? Constructive criticism or for feedback. Or what I'm looking for something. I'm trying to strike a nerve, dog. I want to hear people say something, you crazy, you tripping, whatever. Because I know typically I'm pointing in a good direction before I open my mouth.
You're
But
fired
I
up.
need some help from somebody that's willing to have that conversation, bro, because I can't have it by myself.
It's very hard to.
Right? Man. And so yeah, like you said, John, like, hey, you typically a product of your peer group, or you typically chime in the same sentiments of your peer group, but at the same time I'm that person now, like I said, that's speaking out, not necessarily against the narrative, but I'm asking questions. And
It's
everybody
like,
don't want to have that conversation, bro, because they want to rock with the narrative and they good. What'd you
You're
say,
right.
Tasha?
no, just listening to you just reminded me of that phrase that they say often, show me the 5 people that you hang out with and I'll tell you who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
And
it.
yeah, I don't know, just forgot about that one. Just
That's an.
remember.
Yeah.
I always thought about that question, and it's like, because I personally don't have a very huge friend group by any
Right.
means, but I certainly do have a desired friend group. And when you think about where would you find people that have similar interests as you, or are potentially going in the direction as you in life? And it's like, well, you see them online sometimes, Twitter, YouTube, people that are doing whatever they're doing. But on a day-to-day life, unless you're putting yourself in that kind of environment, let's say just to be basic, like a bookstore or a college university or something like that, if you're just out here living your life, the likelihood that you'll meet people like that and cultivate that sort of those five fingers, those five people is low. So I feel like it's difficult for a lot of people to find those targeted and specific desired friends. And I think that's why a lot of people just end up going along with the narrative, is because going along to get along, because it's difficult to go
Mm-hmm.
against it. So you got to
Yeah.
be a person to ask a question as scary as, who am I, or who do I want to be? So
Right.
Yeah. And so that leads me to this statement, bro. That is why we, and I'm not just saying me, I'm saying we, because if you're on this call, I consider you a leader. That's why we as leaders need to lead from the front. It's about the fact that we've identified some stuff that's special, true, near and dear to us, that is a little bit, it's a cut above the norm. And we have to lead from the front and be willing to impart that along the way. Because we can't look back. We got to move forward on our mission and drive towards the things that spark our passion. But along the way, you're going to have an opportunity to share. And if a person is about that life, like I was talking to Tasha about, you got to learn how to set it and forget it. You can't carry everybody with you, but you can wake their game up and keep going. If you woke them up enough, they're going to have questions their own self now. You know what I mean? And if their passion is true, you'll see them at a symposium, you'll see them at a lecture down the line. But you ain't finna sit there and wait for them to get there, because you already on fire. You passionate your damn self.
yeah.
So that's just that, man. I'm having a good time. It's been a great conversation, man. I loathe to cut it off, but I want to wrap it up. If Tasha, if you got something that you want to drop in our spirits, you got 15 seconds. Let's go.
I just want to say thank you both for being here. No, it was a good conversation. I enjoyed it, and it was good meeting you, John. I'll see you around. But no, go ahead.
Likewise, absolutely.
Okay. So let's do this. We're gonna end.
Okay.
I'm gonna end this with a call to action.
Okay.
So
Yes.
let's as at least a thought exercise, like John said. This is his fault right here. At least as a thought exercise, activate and ask the question, lean into somebody that you wouldn't have normally talked to, that you would have normally let walk past you, somebody that you've probably seen time and time again, or maybe somebody you've never seen before. But ask them a question. Find out something about them. Shake a hand, make a friend. Right? And like John said, hey, it may be nothing, it may, you know what I mean? But if I don't ask, you never know. Right? So I appreciate y'all. Let's wrap it with that one. I just want to thank y'all, because without you guys, this conversation don't go like it went. There's so many different things that came out in this conversation don't get spoken. My mind don't race like it's racing now, you know. But let's just continue. Let's y'all can hit me up on DMs or whatever you want to call it, and we'll probably have way more topic and content to come up with for future calls. But we'll wrap it with that one. And we'll
Yeah,
see y'all next time.
yeah. I
All right.
appreciate you inviting me on, giving me an
All right.
opportunity to express my thoughts. So thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. We're going to wrap it with that one, man.
All right.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye.